The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. This is Dan McGran with RevTrack. We are going to get started here. It's the top of the hour, and I needed to let everyone know that we're recording the webinar as of now, so please be aware of that. And then also, everyone will get a copy of the slides and a link to the recording via email, probably during the day tomorrow, during the U.S. business day tomorrow. And we have a lot to cover here, so let's just get started. One last thing is we will cover some questions at the end, so please use the chat to get in there and submit those questions. So again, I'm Dan McGran with RevTrack and the U.S. Sales Director. I'll be today's presenter. Happy to be here, and thank you very much for joining today. For the non-RevTrack customers on today's webinar, and we know we have quite a large number of those, we wanted to give a brief one-slide introduction to our company. So we're Revelation Software Concepts, and our software solutions for SAP environments are RevTrack and Insights. Our current version of RevTrack is named Platinum, which is an automated change management solution which helps customers improve their SAP change outcomes, specifically in a couple areas such as increasing the velocity of change and the volume of change, improving the quality, reducing the risk associated with those changes, and also cost savings. Insights is the new name for our software solution formerly named SALT, and it's an SAP Change Intelligence solution which is included with RevTrack Platinum and also available separately licensed. We've been helping customers in this area for more than 20 years and have a complete 100% focus on SAP. Okay, here's today's agenda. I'm going to start with some trends we've observed regarding SAP HANA and S4 HANA. These trends are both with our customers and with the SAP market in general that we've observed. Then we'll take a quick look at the colorful options customers have to move to these SAP offerings, along with the many choices for tools, processes, and timelines available. Then we'll get a little deeper into the technical change management aspect of things, since that's what we do here at RevTrack, and we'll take a look at what's new with HANA and S4 HANA changes or transports, and really also what stayed the same. RevTrack is always keeping pace with the underlying SAP changes going on, so we'll cover that. Next, we'll give you a quick glimpse of how some of our customers have moved to HANA and or S4 HANA, and how RevTrack supports those diverse architectures, versions, and other requirements. Just a quick look at some of those customer profiles. Then I plan to take you through a brief screenshot demonstration of how RevTrack works with SAP HAM, or HANA Application Lifecycle Manager, and also how we've extended our OOPS functionality to the HANA world. So you'll get a quick look at that. Then we'll wrap up with a brief customer Q&A. Was able to join us today, so you can get an idea of how one of our customers is using RevTrack with their new S4 HANA landscapes. And finally, we'll do our best to answer attendee questions at the end. Again, please submit them via chat. So what are the trends? We've seen about 25% of our customers move to SAP HANA over the past few years. They've moved from the other databases out there, right? Microsoft SQL Server or Oracle or DB2 to the HANA database platform. And it's basically been a non-event for RevTrack since our software doesn't have any dependencies on the underlying database. We've also had a good number of customers get their feet wet by going with HANA for BW on HANA sidecar type architectures. We've enhanced RevTrack over the past few releases to extend some of our core functionality, such as OOPS for HANA, which I mentioned before. OOPS stands for Overtake and Overwrite Protection System. We've also extended it for enforcement for HANA development, which is taking place in tools such as HANA Studio, and we'll get into some of those details in a little while. For S4 HANA, only a few of our customers are live with S4 HANA. They've been a mix of greenfield or new implementations and conversions of existing R3 environments to S4 HANA. Also, some customers are conducting pilots in this area to determine how or if S4 HANA can benefit their SAP operations. Of the ones who have gone live, they are all either traditional on-premise deployments or hosted cloud options such as hosting on AWS or Azure or the HANA Enterprise Cloud. But we don't have any customers live with S4 HANA in the public cloud, which really isn't a big surprise to us since the few success stories we've seen for S4 HANA public cloud are for small professional services companies, not really the type of customers we've dealt with over our history. So our figures and observations really align with the overall SAP customer trends for HANA and S/4HANA migrations. It gets tough. It's tough really to get accurate figures on things like the total number of SAP customers or the number running on the HANA database and number of S4 live customers. But we're able to piece together some information from SAP user groups, and SAP partners. So migrations to HANA from an NEDB, like ANYDB, as SAP likes to call other databases these days, are really numbered in the thousands, across the SAP ecosystem. Most of this information comes from the hardware infrastructure companies like HP, IBM, Dell, and Cisco, along with cloud infrastructure companies who are always, highlighting their market share in the HANA space. What we found a little more than a year ago is HPE, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, provided some market research which estimated about 20% of SAP customers either had already or were migrating to SAP HANA. So that really lines up with our customer experiences, right? We're about 25%. They're seeing about 20% in the marketplace, so that's about right. The link, you can actually see throughout this presentation, we've embedded some links. It's embedded in the presentation. You'll get these slides, so you can take a closer look at that if you want to afterward. Now, the number of S/4HANA customers, licenses, and go-lives is really a much more interesting and sometimes controversial topic. We'll avoid any controversy today, but it's safe to say that the SAP reported numbers, as we show here, have to be taken with a little bit of a grain of salt. But even with these perhaps overestimated numbers, the 2,100 live S/4HANA customers, once they're adjusted for net new customers, because 40 to 50% are net new, we come up with about, let's say, 1,200, when we do the math, R3 customers who have converted at least partially to S4. And then when you take a look at the estimated total number of SAP R3 customers worldwide, that established number is about 40,000, plus or minus 10%. So bear with me, we'll do some quick math. We take that 1,200 live S4 divided by 40,000 gets us about 3%, that 3% number. So really single-digit adoption of S/4HANA, which again is in line with our customers, right? We have just a couple percentage of our customers that we know that have moved or are moving to S4. So we're seeing a lot of interest in this area. So if you're interested in more details on SAP customers' S/4HANA plans, you should check out a recent ebook from a company that we actually have a partnership with called Resulting IT. They're a UK-based SAP consulting company, and they provide some really great details and insights on this topic. I normally don't do this, but I'm going to take just a quick break here and say this is what it is. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time, but it's don't migrate to S/4HANA until you've read this research. And they go on for about 30 pages of some really good stats and interviews and surveys with customers that'll give you some really good insight. You can see they've done a great job with this. You're not expected to follow along here, just saying you might find it useful if that's where you are in your S/4HANA plans. Okay. You can actually find the link there as well. So that's a little bit about the trends. So really, how do customers get to SAP HANA and S/4HANA? Right. The quick sarcastic answer is to pay SAP and consulting companies a lot of money to help you get there. But the real answer is that there are many ways to get there depending on where you're going. For a move to HANA, typically what would be called Suite on HANA, where you're running your R3 applications on the HANA database, it's a typical OSDB migration, right? An operating system in database migration. It's similar to what companies have been doing over the past 15 to 20 years when they were moving from HPUX to Linux, or from AS400 to Windows Server and SQL Server, those types of things. But however, this time the database comes from SAP. It's HANA. Lots of customers are also combining this with a lift and shift project to move from on-premise or hosted hardware to cloud solutions from AWS, Azure, and others. Or as I mentioned earlier, maybe just getting their feet wet with HANA by going with Sidecar for BW. All in all, it's a rather familiar territory for a lot of customers, and we feel that's why there's been a steady move over the past few years to Suite on HANA by SAP's customers. For these types of migrations, we typically see customers approach this as a normal technical upgrade, many times just doing the normal system copy step, followed by the upgrade and migration steps. Of course, I'm skipping over lots and lots of technical details like splitting the ABAP and Java stacks, Unicode conversions, testing, lots of other things. But one thing to keep in mind is that during these migrations, you need to make sure you have processes and hopefully automated tools, hopefully like RevTrack, in place to help with the dual maintenance activities that may be going on for several months or longer. Now, that's really looking at just HANA as the database. Now, S/4HANA is much newer territory, as I was saying. It's not a standard upgrade or a familiar OSDB migration project. It's a combination of lots of things with different objectives depending on the SAP customer. For some, it might be part of a broader digital transformation project where new business processes and sometimes even new business models are being created. It's wrapped into that. For others, their S/4HANA project is about business and system consolidation or combined with some business divestiture type or M&A activity. And as you can sort of see highlighted here, there are lots of colorful ways to get there. Green field, brown field, blue field. I heard left field the other day, not a color, but another new one. We're not going to get deep into those different ways to get to S/4HANA. There's lots of information, and that's their own webinars and assessments. Because really what we've seen is you'll find strong, sometimes contradicting arguments for all the different options from the different sources. Is greenfield better? Is brownfield better? And truth is, I think different customers are in different spots in their SAP lifecycle, and one might be better for another. But we do want to point out that an important thing to remember is that you'll be running in parallel for an extended time frame, no matter really which color or approach you choose. So in other words, you'll have to be managing your SAP changes in both the existing systems and landscapes and the new ones simultaneously. Doing that manually, as many customers are doing it today, many SAP customers not using RevTrack, is not highly recommended. So really, which tools and solutions are available for you? That's what we're going to get into next. And again, point out that these links are all hot. This top one, this blog by the person that's written the ABAP for HANA book from SAP is relatively new. The title's funny. It says reasons not to move to S/4HANA, but it's really chock full of reasons why to move to S/4HANA. So I'd highly recommend that one. Okay, so what processes and tools are customers using or considering for these migrations, and really what timelines do they have to deal with? As usual, there are lots of choices and even some confusion. From a process standpoint, most customers want to move to HANA in an agile way, right, away from the waterfall way, meaning that they want to deliver functionality in small increments every few weeks instead of huge go-lives that go live every 6 months with another month or two of hypercare tacked on. Right, small incremental go-lives are easier to digest, so that makes sense. It's easier to digest for the users, and necessary adjustments that you need to make along the way can be done quickly. So customers are pretty clear, we found, about the why they want to go the agile method, but how they're going to go agile and what they're going to use to get there, that's still sort of unclear. So there's some work to do there. One important aspect we've noticed with our customers as they shift to agile SAP processes is that they shouldn't underestimate the significant adjustments in the way that they operate their SAP change management processes. They're really fundamentally shifting from a protect production sort of mindset or focus that they've had for many, many years to a deliver fast, agile focus, which sometimes can cause issues within the team, just something we've noticed in working with our customers. So in the middle here, there are tons of tools from SAP and other customers to help with the transition to HANA. I've only listed some of the more common tools here. Many of these are still being developed, which means they are changing rapidly and that there are very few experienced users of those tools. There's also definitely some confusion and maybe even some misunderstandings about some of them. One in particular, we've seen lots of confusion around a tool from SAP called SAP Activate. Some customers we've worked with have been told that it's mandatory, which it isn't, and that it's part of Solution Manager, which it's not. Another thing we've noticed with many of these other tools is that they come from different groups from within SAP. So sometimes there's overlap in the functionality that's being delivered. For example, HAM, or HANA Application Lifecycle Manager, Charm, QGM, Quality Gate Manager, Focused Build, and Cloud ALM are all SAP tools, and they all provide different ways to manage SAP changes. So which one of those should a customer use? There's really no clear answer. And since there's no guaranteed roadmap for any of those tools, not knowing if they'll be around in a year or two, it really makes it difficult for customers to standardize on a single SAP solution for their change management needs, whether HANA or otherwise. As far as timelines go, SAP established the biggest deadline, which I think we all know about these days, which is that 2025 deadline for customers to move to S/4HANA. We'll see if that sticks, but for now, it's the big line in the sand that's been drawn. And of course, we see that customers have their own internal project deadlines to deal with as well. So we know that SAP customers have a lot to worry about when moving to HANA and S/4HANA, but don't let SAP technical change management be one of the worries. Right? RevTrack automates and simplifies those SAP change management activities for HANA, S/4HANA, and all of your existing SAP environments. In a few minutes, I'm going to give a few customer profiles of HANA and S/4HANA users that are also RevTrack users in different scenarios. So, and here's a quote from one of our customers that had moved to HANA. Basically, what they're telling us is that they wish they would have moved to RevTrack earlier in the process. So RevTrack can be installed and configured at any time during your SAP lifecycle, but earlier is typically better, is what our customers find. One other thing I'll note out here, this is hyperlinked as well. We have a new part of our website called Customer Success, where you can see some of these other customer testimonials and charts about the outcomes they've received with RevTrack. So that's a little bit about the processes, tools, and timelines. Whoops, hope I didn't, there we go. Oh, didn't want to do that. I went to the website by mistake. Let me get back over here. Okay. So next topic is what's new and what's the same, right? From an SAP transport perspective, many things are similar and familiar for SAP and, for HANA and for S/4HANA. The core programming language for HANA and S/4HANA remains to be ABAP, as it's been forever in the SAP world. With Suite on HANA, basically nothing has changed for SAP transports unless you're developing native HANA objects, which are some of the examples shown here in the list. Things such as creating schema and table definitions, all types of different views in HANA, plenty of other things, including Fiori development, core data services, lots of things I don't mention here. And another thing that's changed, right, as many of you that have gone down this path know, is development for HANA objects is done mostly with HANA Studio or other similar tools, and which is an Eclipse-based solution. And we've extended RevTrack for customers in a way that enforces developers to save those Eclipse changes to a transport associated with a RevTrack. And along the way, RevTrack locking rules are also enforced. We won't be able to show that today, but feel free to follow up with us afterward. This ensures that all of the HANA developments are controlled with your organization's appropriate SAP change management process, right? No matter what development tool you might be using. It also helps to eliminate orphaned transports in the HANA world. And then many SAP customers are using HAM, again, or HANA Application Lifecycle Manager as part of the process, which has an integration built in with SAP's CTS Plus for the automated deployment of the HANA changes. And I'll be able to show how RevTrack works with HAM and CTS Plus in a few minutes later on in the webinar. So one thing we see is CTS Plus can be used to automate the deployment of these HANA developments, but SAP also offers some other options with which RevTrack supports. One, HTA, or HANA Transport for ABAP, works well, but as you see, requires a fairly recent version of SAP as a prerequisite. And there's even a brand new recent update to that called HTA for HDI. It's acronym soup, as it always is here in the SAP world. HDI is HANA Deployment Infrastructure, and that has 7.5.2 as well as the 2.0 version of the HANA database to work. The great news for RevTrack customers and really all SAP customers going down this path is RevTrac works in all of these environments. So whatever path you go, whatever you might need to do, know that RevTrac works fine there. All right, so what are the different scenarios for SAP transports in HANA and S/4HANA? We've broken things down into this simple table. If you're running just plain old ABAP for SAP HANA, either Suite on HANA or S4, it's pretty much business as usual from a RevTrac perspective. RevTrac just works as it has for the past 20 years. Now, if you're creating native HANA content, as some customers are doing, and you want to automate and simplify the transport process, RevTrac customers have two choices. We just talked about them a little bit on the previous slide. First, CTS Plus can be used to manage those native HANA transports. Many of you might be familiar with the way CTS Plus works, and it's similar in the way that it works for other non-op transports, such as Portal, BobJ, or PI transports. The advantage of this method is that you don't have any minimum SAP version dependencies to worry about. CTS Plus really hasn't changed in about 10 years, so I think everyone would meet those minimum versions. The potential disadvantage is that users will have to learn to work with the CTS Plus organizer or browser interface to manage the native HANA transports. It's really not all that difficult to set up and learn, but it is something new, and sometimes people are just avoid the new things. I'll show some screenshots during a demo of how all that works together. That's the one we're going to be able to introduce you to today. And the other option for transporting native HANA changes is HTA, HANA Transport for ABAP. With HTA, the users would be interacting with the normal RevTrac screens, but there is the minimum SAP versions we mentioned. And with both CTS and HANA Transport for ABAP, the standard RevTrac functionality is pretty much out of the box. The last option, going all the way down to the bottom here, is not a RevTrac option and really only for new SAP S/4HANA customers who have not used SAP R3 applications in the past, sort of those net new customers I was talking about before, right? They have no idea what a transport is. They have no idea what a CTS is. In those newer, smaller environments, the best options would be using a HANA Application Lifecycle Manager on its own, or perhaps the new SAP Cloud offering. There still isn't a whole lot of information available on that cloud offering, and according to SAP, Cloud AM won't be fully available till sometime in 2020. So there's a quick summary of transports for HANA and S/4HANA. So moving quickly here just to some of the customer profiles. We have a couple screens of these. So one of our longest customers for SAP S/4HANA started on that journey a few years ago. They had a bit of a unique situation where they were a longtime SAP customer and RevTrac customer, and they had an opportunity for a greenfield, completely separate S/4HANA project for a separate division, independent of their R3 operations. And they used RevTrac from the beginning, and now they have 3 S/4HANA environments there, all running RevTrac, while also continuing to manage their existing R3 landscapes. They do all this with one RevTrac master server, which is the central server that is controlling all these different SAP systems for the changes. And it's also my understanding that this customer is planning an S/4HANA upgrade soon, and they're planning to use RevTrac to automate the dual maintenance, retrofitting or cloning process, as we call it, during the upgrade. So that's one quick one. They were running it on 1610, I believe, is their HANA, S/4HANA platform or version, I should say. So another customer started their S4 journey last year, and they're basically, as I understand it, consolidating some separate R3 environments into a single S4HANA 1710 instance. I don't believe all existing R3 functionality can be migrated all at once, right? So it's going to take some time. So they'll be running in parallel for some time. They're also running MDG, or Master Data Governance, on S4HANA, and we're working with them to enable RevTrac to automate the synchronization of the S4HANA and MDG changes. They're running these systems in the HANA Enterprise Cloud environment. So that was one of the customers in HEC, as it's called So there's 2 quick profiles. Couple more here. Another customer migrated to Suite on HANA, so not running S4 HANA, but they migrated to Suite on HANA about 2 years ago and initially started using RevTrac with CTS Plus, but then they switched to HTA, or HANA Transport for ABAP, and found it really easy to configure and use. So again, just supporting CTS Plus or HTA or whatever tools SAP has out there. Coincidentally, around the same time, they pivoted to more agile work teams, and they reconfigured RevTrac to support the new agile processes, just sort of redoing the workflows, which was a project for them, but not too difficult. They were also able to re-architect their landscapes and remove some downstream staging systems in their new HANA environment, and HANA systems cost a lot, so there's some cost savings there. And we're seeing this with some of our older, mature customers, that they're able to reduce systems, and part of the reason why they're able to reduce those systems is because of the way RevTrac helps them operate more efficiently with managing the changes. So moving on to the middle one, this customer was unique to us in that they were the first S4 HANA customer we dealt with who had a permanent N+1 landscape in place to manage their ongoing S4 HANA projects and keep those projects and the changes separate from the production support changes. So they had a little bit of this permanent N+1 or dual development environment. And they're just getting started with RevTrac and are using it mainly to safely automate their retrofit processes in their 1610 S4HANA environment. And lastly, just one more to profile, another customer running in the HANA Enterprise Cloud. They're running BW for HANA and are also using our Eclipse enforcement to make sure that all Eclipse-based development that's being done in the HANA Studio is associated with and managed by RevTrac. So just a little bit there about a couple customer profiles. So let me take a quick look at the time, about 25, 27 minutes into it. Next on the agenda was the demo, screenshot demo as I'm calling it. But if I can switch things up on people a little bit, I was going to go to the customer Q&A. And by customer Q&A, I mean we actually have one of our customers that agreed to just give some feedback, go through a quick interview process with me about the questions I have on the screen, and share that with the audience. And then I'll go on to the HANA demo. So may I ask, Rod, are you still there?
I am still here.
Well, thank you for joining and hanging out and going along with these questions. So maybe we'll just go top to bottom, and feel free to ad lib as you'd like, or keep it as short as you'd like. Either, nothing, no rules to the interview here today. So maybe just top to bottom. So what I think it's S4 for you guys. So what S4 HANA environments do you have RevTrac installed on there?
Yeah, sure. In our older environments, we did have a BW on HANA that goes back to 2013. So when we brought RevTrac in 2015, we deployed it on that landscape. From our perspective, it handles exactly like any other ABAP transport. The old adage about SAP being database agnostic under the hood. So going from an Oracle database to a HANA database for the BW application back in the day, there was absolutely no difference. Then with our new one ERP, which is kind of a grand convergence environment, we currently have S4, the old ECC environment, and then MDG currently up on HANA. Within that installation, then we also have a Fiori landscape, an SLT landscape, etc. So those two systems have, literally HANA under the hood, and then the SLT and the Fiori boxes are on SAP's ASE database. But from our standpoint, they all function the same.
Good. And for the HANA S4 HANA under the covers, what version is that?
Yeah, we're on 1709. We're actually walking through an upgrade to functional pack 03, FPS 03. But we're only at 1709, and we're talking about how we're going to get to 1809 and beyond. So
Got it. I'm thinking now, I think I had my versions wrong in the not for you, but for one of the others, I was calling it 1710, and I can't keep them straight, but 1709.
Yeah.
So I think you already mentioned that you have, it's not just S/4HANA and the Fiori and MDG and that stuff. You had the other, I guess you call them these days legacy R3 systems, right? So you still have that environment and that footprint.
Yeah, our convergence journey is going to be, admittedly, multiple years. So when you were going through the different scenarios, greenfield, brownfield, AWS, et cetera, I almost shouted out bingo, because I think we've got one of everything under that. But, from our standpoint, we used an acquisition to basically drive a greenfield S4 deployment.
Oh.
So our S4 footprint is not, terribly large from a standpoint of the overall company. The much larger pieces of the company are running on our quote unquote legacy SAP instances that are, ECC 6.0 based. But, the plan is that they're all going to go over the next couple of years. So we have a production support package. We went to agile from a release standpoint. So we have a small production footprint out there already. And then the next releases are going through a +1 landscape. So we have, production support transports that sync up into the +1 environment. And then, once the SPS or FPS03 upgrade goes in, that'll kind of end the sync up, at least automatically. But, from our standpoint, it functions just like the other two legacy landscapes operate that are still on ECC 6.0 and
Got it.
SRM and SCM and the previous generation of SAP systems.
Exactly. I don't know if people call them. It'd be hard to call them legacy because some people just are still getting them up and running. So.
Exactly. We're still getting upgrades and enhancement packs and the like. So
yeah, just any because I think you were pretty much responsible for RevTrack there. Technical issues getting RevTrack installed. Running on the S4, I think you did have some, I won't call, RevTrack issues, heck issues. Feel free if you want to elaborate. If you don't want to elaborate, that's fine too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So from our standpoint, the other aspect that's new with this new implementation is we previously were all on premise. We have moved our non-premise applications and these are in our quote unquote legacy systems, have moved those to AWS. We've not moved our production environment to AWS. That's still in the timeline, probably late 19 or 2020. But with the S4 deployment, we went to SAP's cloud support, the HEC environment, which is HANA Enterprise Cloud. So that was our first exposure to operating in HEC's proprietary cloud. Honestly, the biggest challenge we had, not really a RevTrack challenge, but more just an operating challenge, which even we've had some fun with our basis folks. The HANA Enterprise Cloud is very restrictive from a standpoint of 000 client access. So those of you that have RevTrack installed know that you've got system users and RFC connections going to your 000 users. In HEC, basically they will give you those IDs. They'll give you the RFCs, but it's kind of behind the curtain from a customer standpoint. So getting comfortable with how that was going to be handled was honestly our biggest challenge. And obviously, in an on-premise environment where you've got access to the entire hardware, software, everything, it was a little bit of a change. But from a RevTrack standpoint, once we understood how we were going to communicate, between the systems and back to the RevTrack master, the installation was extraordinarily clean. The biggest challenge that we have, and for those customers that are perhaps in the same environment, to contemplate is just where is your RevTrack master going to be? Our RevTrack master is still on premise.
Yep.
So we're communicating to our S4 systems through RFCs. I'd like to say as a telecommunication company that those RFCs are lightning fast. Sometimes they're not. And, it's just kind of, once you warm them up a little bit, they function a little better than,
they wake
nobody's been, exactly, they wake up. And, if nobody's been down that road for a couple days, the snow might drift, and it may take a plow to go through to open it back up. Bad analogy. So I think honestly, one of our strategic questions is just going to be, when do we pick up our RevTrack master and make the commitment to move it over into the HANA Cloud as well.
Yeah. Okay.
That said, we're not there yet, but from a performance, from an operation standpoint, the RFCs are a little slower, but from it's a delight to watch an S4 import proceed, because basically as fast as you refresh the screen, stuff's happening. And unless you're making major table surgery, your imports are going in like I said, just as fast as you can refresh your screen, and it's very user friendly and very DevOps / agile friendly, from a standpoint of once they want to move it moves, and it's there.
Okay. Other than the speed, any other, I won't call that a unique issue, that was just a characteristic of S4 transports, they go in the snap of a finger, but any other things you've noticed, or not RevTrack related, or anything that comes to mind? Or
it's been, honestly, I think for most of your customers, it's going to be more of the same, which is hopefully a good thing from a standpoint of the comfort level that you've had with RevTrack, over the years, in an ABAP / on-presence / whatever your database under the hood was. That moving to S4 HANA is really not going to be that big of a change, and RevTrack handles it really seamlessly.
Really appreciate that, Rod. I didn't know that, as you said, bingo, that's truly a hybrid environment, AWS dev and test, and on-prem production, and S4 in the HEC cloud. You've got stuff everywhere.
Yeah, we got a little bit of everything. And, from a standpoint for customers that have more than just, S4, some of your sidecar applications, back, when SAP split everything up, and instead of just everything in R3, you had SRM and SCM and SLT and you still kind of have that. The Fiori instance is separate, the MDG instance is separate, our SLT instance is separate. So there are some vertical landscapes from a standpoint of development, QA, prod. And then, we've got multiple QA instances, and from a target standpoint, handling those targets is just as easy as it is, on an ABAP stack. You just, add your client, add your system, and RevTrack takes it from there.
Okay.
So.
Perfect. Yeah, almost speaking tonight, much of it is the same, right? As I was saying in that one slide.
Correct.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Right. I really appreciate your time there. I think we'll sort of wrap that up, and I'll just proceed with these next couple screenshot demo, as I'm calling it. Thanks again, and hope to talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Glad to help. Thank you.
Thanks, Rod. Okay, so getting close here to the 45 minutes that we had committed to. So this should take me 5 or 6 minutes to just go through a scenario where HANA changes are being managed by RevTrack. I've found that for webinars with larger audience like this one, live or recorded demonstrations are sometimes hard to follow. So that's why I'm going with the screenshot demonstration approach. Feel free to contact us for further, more in-depth demonstrations on sort of a one-on-one basis. But this scenario is rather simple with a basic SAP landscape as shown here, just D, Q, and P. We're going to spend most of the time showing multiple HANA developments attached to a few RevTrack requests and how they're moved from the development system to the quality system with a combination of SAP HAM, CTS Plus, and RevTrack. In our demos, we typically create a situation where developments get out of sequence, which is what we've done here. And we'll show how RevTrack alerts you to the overtake and overwrite situations for the HANA changes. That's an area we've extended RevTrack to. We're showing this as changes are moving from development to quality, but the same alerts would occur on migrations to production systems or other target systems. So let's get started. All right, here we're looking at the old RevTrack console in the SAP GUI. In a moment, I'll show the RevTrack Web GUI, which is a modern HTML5 version, but most of today's screenshots are shown in the SAP GUI environment because that's from the recorded demo that I took it from. And what we're seeing here briefly is just the way that a user would interact with RevTrack, the main main user screen. You can see a request number. This is a list of in-process requests and deleted and total requests and so on and so forth. It just lets you navigate to other RevTrack screens to do the approvals and attaching of documents and things like that. Here's what it looks like to give you an idea in the new web UI. Just a modern, fresh interface where you can navigate to individual request numbers like 86, or over here you have 1193 and 1994, which you've pinned as favorites, maybe ones that you're working on, totals and widgets that you can create, and left access menu, so just a more modern interface. Okay, so this scenario that we're showing here today deals with two RevTrack requests, 85 and 86, which contain some HANA changes. As you can see, one RevTrack contains a HANA enhancement, and the other contains a fix for the same HANA object. Okay, so that's what it looks like in the RevTrack SAP GUI. Here's what it might look like, not the same requests, but in the modern one, right? Request number with a hot link, the status, the title, so on and so forth. Okay, then if we look inside of RevTrack number 85, we see two HANA transports. One has been released and already sent to the quality system. The other's been released but not yet moved to quality. That's what this is showing here, right? 1X was released and sent to the quality system. 1Z was released but not yet sent yet. The idea here was that this was actually a fix for 1X, I believe. Okay, here's one more, the last one, web GUI screen to show you the way this information would be displayed in the web GUI. From this point on, I'm going to stick with just the SAP GUI screenshots of RevTrack because it'll get a little bit confusing. But in this case, you have a RevTrack number, which you had up here, but then it's here with the title. I've clicked on the technical button. It brings me up to a single transport in this case, tells me that it's been released and it's moved to the QA system. Here's the actual components of it, which we would have seen if we would have expanded this one over here. So anyway, point is that we have it there for you two ways, and it's included with RevTrack. Okay, now let's look inside RevTrack number 86. We see two more HANA transports, which have both been sent to the quality system. They both have what we call these sent indicators. So altogether, 4 HANA transports are in play. And you can see sort of the transport creation sequence, the way this was configured. X was first, Y, Z, and then 20. And that's just the normal SAP transport numbering system. So you're sort of getting the feeling that they're a little bit out of order. Now, we're going to make yet another change to that HANA delivery unit, which was really the content of those transports. And here's the latest version of it in HANA Application Lifecycle Management. You know, you would go in here. We skipped the steps where this object was changed with inside HAM, but we're at the point where we're selecting the latest version, 6.16.2.0, of that delivery unit to be attached to a transport. You can see that we're in the CTS export screen, actually using CTS Plus in HAM. So we would just attach to a transport request, and you would get this next screen. In this case, there isn't an existing SAP transport, so we need to create one by going to the Transport Organizer UI. We would have just clicked on this hot link and been presented with this screen. Brings up the Transport Organizer screen. These are the ones you might be familiar with if you're using CTS Plus for PI or Portal or BobJ. And here you would just create the new request. Okay, but before you can create the new SAP transport, you have to assign a RevTrack request number so that the transport is associated and tracked by a RevTrack request. Basically, this is our enforcement step. In this scenario, we associate this HANA transport with RevTrack number 86. We filled in 86 because that's the one I showed a few minutes ago that we're working on. All right, we satisfied those criteria. The new transport is created. It's request number ending in 21. It's a little bit faded there, but hopefully you can see it. And it includes the new version of that delivery unit, right? Okay. Now, we can see that transport number 21 in the RevTrac screen and has not been released from the HANA development system. That's the one that we just created and then now is attached to 86. We skipped over the approval steps in this screenshot demonstration to save some time, but the appropriate users would have been notified via email about the requested approval, that it needs to go to quality, and then based on your specific approval workflow that you have in place, they would have made the approval via a RevTrac screen or the web GUI screen or even from their mobile device or phone. But hopefully you see what's going to happen here. We're approving the migration of a newer version of this HANA delivery unit when there's an older unreleased version in RevTrac number 85 above. It's not expanded, but there was that version Z up there that was yet to be released. So if we give approval, Oops Plus in RevTrac automatically runs and alerts us that we're about to overtake that older version. And really that's what we're showing here. The HANA change ending in transport number 21 will overtake the HANA change ending in transport 1Z because it's taking it over. In this scenario, change in 21, though, is an urgent break fix change. So we're going to let this proceed, fully aware of the overtake situation because we've determined this needs to go now. Okay, now we can see that the latest HANA change number 21, right here, is actually in the QAS system. That's our status that we've configured in our demo system workflow, that it's in quality system. If this were moving to prod, it would probably say something like in PRD. Hopefully you can get the picture. Again, we skipped the approval steps, this time for number 85, which has the older version of that HANA change in the transport ending in 1Z. Okay, but we're moving ahead and we're giving the approval here. During that approval process, again, Oops runs automatically. That's a great feature of Oops. It runs automatically for you as part of the approval process. You don't have to go anywhere else and check on anything. It just happens. In this situation, we're presented with an overwrite message, right, which is more dangerous than the earlier overtake message, because an overwrite means that you'll potentially, or you will downgrade the version in the target system, in quality or production or wherever this thing's going. So that's really what we had today. We weren't planning to make this a huge demo, but it's a brief overview of how RevTrac had extended its Oops functionality to the HANA world. But in reality, in this scenario, you may have wanted to go about things a little differently. For example, maybe not ignoring that initial overtake message and fixing things before that change moved forward. That would have been an option, and that would have never triggered a subsequent overwrite that we're seeing on the screen now. But we know how busy and confusing SAP development environments can be, so we wanted to show how RevTrac can help prevent, I should say, those unwanted situations even for those HANA environments. So that's bringing us up to about 2:48, a couple minutes late. Just concluding here, wanted to thank everyone for joining, a couple minutes extra. Please contact us for more information. Always happy to do demonstrations. You can visit us at revtrack.com. Also, another link that you could get from the presentation is our Tech Validate site, where we have some customer testimonials. We're very proud of our customer Net Promoter Score, it's called. We're about 3 times the industry average. We think that's because of our support team and our consultants and just the maturity of our software. So we thank everyone for joining today. Just some additional contact information. I am heading over to the Q&A section now. So let me see if I can expand this and see if we have any. Looks like I have just one so far. Question: does RevTrac require Solution Manager to run? Good question. Many of our customers run RevTrac on Solution Manager, but that's not a requirement. All we really require is an ABAP stack system. Sometimes Solution Manager is a good one, but it doesn't have to be. Let me see. Another one: is RevTrac certified by SAP for HANA and S/4HANA? Oh, well, yeah, thank you for asking that. We meant to show the SAP certifications in this slide, but SAP is very particular in the way that you present those things, and we were waiting for them from their marketing department, and they never sent them. So yes, RevTrack is certified for HANA applications and for the S4 HANA platform, and we could share that with you offline. So thanks for asking that. And one more here. It said we showed HANA delivery units or DUs in the example, but do we support HANA change lists for transport? Okay, I think that means, so underneath a delivery unit, there are change lists, which are pieces of the delivery unit from my technical standpoint, and it's my understanding that we fully support that as well for those HANA environments. Let me check one more time. Any more pop in? Is the overtake like the downgrade checks in Solution Manager, and people really need to pay attention to those? Okay. So yes, there are downgrade checks in Solution Manager called DGP, downgrade protection. There are many, many differences between the way that RevTrack works and the ways that Solution Manager works. So it is, I would say on the surface, they're similar. Once you get into the details, there are many, many differences, and we'd be happy to explain those, more in a one-on-one type situation. It would be hard to get into it today, but thank you for that question. And I think that was the last one. So here we are about 50 minutes into the webinar. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We're going to end it and hope to see you maybe at Sapphire in a few months or at future webinars with RevTrack, or feel free to contact us on our website, and we'd be happy to pass information your way and have a good discussion about SAP transports. Thanks everyone. Bye now.